Death in Five Nights at Freddy's isn't just a jump scare, it's about what happens after. Static fills the entire screen, and you're stuck there for a few seconds, until finally a game over image appears, and only then can you restart. The fact that you have to sit there and watch this over and over every time you die hits hard. It makes you sit with that failure for a good 5 seconds before you can start over again. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to create this sequence in Unity. What we're building. Here's everything we need to create our end game sequence. The player needs to get hit with a jump scare. Great, we already did that in the previous video. Immediately afterwards, static now needs to cover up the entire screen. Not just visual static, but also audio static. The static is going to run for a few seconds, long enough to make you sit with that failure, and importantly, reacclimate you to nothingness, so that those jump scares don't become so common that you're used to them. Then we'll fade to our game over image. This will be a pre-rendered shot of some location. Finally, the player can press a keyboard or mouse key in order to restart the entire game. We're going to begin things by creating those static overlays and static audio. Making static in Photoshop and Audition. The static effect in Five Nights at Freddy's isn't just a single image. It's lots of noisy images swapping back and forth. Some images appear to have vertical bands in them, other ones have these horizontal white stripes. Regardless, we're going to need to generate noise to create any kind of effect that mimics this. I use Photoshop because it's what I'm comfortable with, but you can use any image editing tool that allows you to generate noise. I started off by using the Five Nights at Freddy's noise as a reference. To create these tall bands, initially I started with a very stretched out vertical image. I then went to Filter, Noise, and Add Noise to create my base layer. I'm using monochromatic noise, so we only have grayscale values. I then took this noisy vertical image and created a pattern from it. This would allow me to repeat that noise over and over and over again, creating that vertical band. I then created a 1024 or 2048 by 2048 image, just depends on what resolution you're going for. I filled in the first layer with that pattern I had created, which made some banding, but I wasn't very happy with it. I then duplicated the layers multiple times, created new layers with different amounts of noise on them, and I just played around for a while until I found something I liked. Whenever I found a good variation or something interesting, I would save it out as a PNG file. I then shifted a lot of the layers around, changed their ordering, changed the blend types and so forth until I found a good number that I liked. And then I also added some horizontal bands directly using gradients to create that vertical banding effect we see in the original Five Nights at Freddy's. I also created some different slightly animated versions of the noise where I'd leave all the layers the same, but I would shift one or offset it by 25 pixels. I'd do this each time, offsetting it a bit horizontally to create an almost animated noise effect. When I was finished, I had created quite a few different folders full of different noisy images. Some were light, some were heavy, some were very intense, some used different swirling patterns. I just took a while and experimented with different types. At the end, I made a lot of different variations and made sure I put them in different folders and named them accordingly so I could group them later on into appropriate bins. Back in Unity, I created a folder called Noise and the many child folder objects and drag and dropped all of my noise images into them. These will become the images we'll use and play on our screen. A few warnings about the noise patterns you're going to see on the screen. If you go too intense or you make too much change between one noise pattern and another, when they strobe on the screen, it becomes really intense and you could potentially give someone a seizure. So dial that noise back more than you think you should, or just try to keep the noise consistent and grouped together in different noise bins or folders. Now let's dive into the audio section. The static effect isn't meant to just be visual. You're supposed to hear it as well. I generated my static using Adobe Audition. I went into Audition, created a new sound, and went to Effects, Generate, and Noise. From there, I could choose white noise, which is a little too clean for what we want. I needed something a little bit dirtier, sounding more like it's from the 1980s or so. I went through and added some filtering. Once I got something I enjoyed, I went ahead and exported it out as a WAV file and dragged and dropped it into my noise folder in Unity. UI setup in Unity. Now let's set up the user interface inside of Unity. Remember, we're starting from our previous video, which means you have a background image, you have a map and a map panel, you have camera controllers, and you also have a jump scare that pops out when you press a button. I started by adding a new panel in the canvas called Panel Static. I want the static to be on top of everything, so I located it at the bottom of my hierarchy in the canvas object. Panel static contains a raw image that stretches across the full screen. This is where the static textures will be playing. You'll want to apply one of your static images directly to the raw image to see how it looks on your screen. You also might want to adjust the color alpha value temporarily so you can see through the static noise as you're working with it. I attached a canvas group onto that panel. This will allow me to control that panel as well as all child user interface objects directly, making it easy to fade things in and out when I change one alpha value. This is really nice because I no longer have to micromanage every single asset inside of it. All I have to do is make one change to the alpha value or the visibility at the top layer to affect all the child objects. I then created a new game object called panel_game_over. This has a raw image attached to it as a component, and it shows a pre-rendered still image of a background, and it's meant to show up once the static ends. I added a Text Mesh Pro object that says Game Over to the lower right-hand corner, just like in the original Five Nights at Freddy's. This entire Game Over sequence and the static sequence will be hidden until the player gets killed. I also used a canvas group on this panel object so I could control all the child objects. Both of these panels should start disabled and with an alpha value of 0. Static Noise Player. Static is going to be controlled by the 3 following scripts. All of these scripts can be found at gleecakes.com if you just want to copy and paste them directly into your Unity project. Before we look at the static noise player, which is going to handle actually displaying the different images on our raw image component, let's talk a little bit about how I wanted to organize these different static texture images. If I just dumped all of my noise frames into a script as an array, it would get messy very quickly, and it would be very hard for me to control what types of noise were being used at any particular time. Five Nights at Freddy's uses different static in the beginning of the game versus over the camera overlay when you're playing the game versus the end screen noise effect. And at different times, I might want to use different types of noise to enhance things or to scare the player more. Therefore, I wanted to create a simple system that would allow me to have some versatility in what noise I was using at any particular time. I'll be doing that through the use of scriptable objects inside of Unity. If you're not familiar with scriptable objects, all you need to know is that they give me a nice sort of placeholder where I can store different types of data and drag and drop them easily in the inspector. This means I don't have to hard code everything inside of a script. I can create a scriptable object, store different configurations, and swap out the scriptable objects later on. The first scriptable object we have is called static frame group. This is just meant to hold a group of textures that belong together, like low intensity static or heavy VHS static. They represent a sequence of frames that will be played in a block. A static frame group also stores frame duration and whether the frames should play in order or shuffle randomly. It has a simple method called isValid. That's going to be used later in our script to validate that it was set up properly. We then have the scriptable object called static set. A static set is a collection of these different static frame groups. So for example, I might want to transition from one type of noise that might be low intensity to something that's very rapid and pulsy, and then back again to low intensity. Rather than create multiple frame groups for each of these different effects, I can create a frame group that's low intensity, a frame group that's high intensity, and then reuse that low intensity frame group at the end again. The idea is to take these static frame groups of different types and reorganize them so I can create more complicated effects later on. It also has an isValid method, and this is once again used to check that it was set up properly. This might seem like overkill, but for me, this made the system more modular because I know we're going to end up using static and noise throughout the entire game. Now let's look at the static noise player script. This is the script that's going to be responsible for swapping out what textures are being shown on the screen. We start with some override methods in Unity for resetting, enabling, and disabling this particular component. We want to make sure we grab references to appropriate objects like the raw image, and we turn everything off and on when necessary. The play method is responsible for stopping anything that's playing and starting our coroutine co_play. Stop does the exact opposite. It's going to halt the co_play routine if it happens to be playing. We have a method called build order. This is going to be responsible for shuffling the frames if we've decided to allow shuffling to occur. It first creates an ordered list of integers, but if we have shuffling enabled, it will randomize what is played and return that new shuffled order. IEnumerator coplay does all the hard work for us. It iterates over every set group, It calls build order for each set group and generates either a sequential array of integers or it generates a shuffled array of integers. And it then plays each frame by setting the raw image texture directly. Game over controller script. Now for the controller that ties everything together. I created a new game object called controller_game_over. I then created and attached a new script called GameOverController. I also attached an audio source component that will play our static noise that we generated in Adobe Audition. The inspector for Game Controller has 3 different sections. One for controlling the static, another for the game over screen, and finally one for timing. Let's briefly look over the code. In Awake, we make sure to turn off the static and game over panels, as well as set the alpha values to 0. This way, if we forgot to do it in the inspectors in the actual game editor view, everything gets reset. The next method, called begin_game_over, is public because it's going to be called when a jump scare ends. It's responsible for starting the coroutine co_game_over that will control the entire transition and fire things off. Within co_game_over, we do the following. First, the static panel activates, we set our alpha value to 1, and the static animation begins to play and the audio fires off. After a delay, we fade out the static while fading in the game over panel. We also fade out the static audio effect. Now our game over screen is visible. Then we enter a loop where we wait for the player to press any key or click a mouse. Finally, once they've done that, we go ahead and reload the scene. We have 2 helper methods. Those are reload active scene and cleanup. Right now, we are only working within one scene, and so we don't need any complex management. We just get the currently active scene using the scene manager and then load it by name. To get this all to work, we need to insert some code into our previous scripts so that this stuff fires off. In our jump scare sequence script, I added a reference to our game over controller. Since game over occurs when a jump scare happens, it will be responsible for triggering the ending sequence in the method playSequence. To get this reference, I find the first object with type GameOverController in the awake method. At the very end of the coroutine, it calls GameOverController.BeginGameOver. I also promised in the last video that we would fix a bug where whenever we would close the map, we would not return to the main office area. It would just keep whatever the previous location was on the screen. Since the map animator script is what actually controls everything, that's where we're going to make the changes to make this work. I added a reference to the camera manager and grabbed a reference to it in the start method. In hide map, I called a new method I added to the camera manager called reset room. This method sets the background material to the original main room texture for us. Everything put together. Because I took time to organize how static works with these different frame groups and sets, we can mix and match them and try out a whole bunch of different effects. Here's an example where I used lighter static during the transition. Here's another where I tried heavier static. And here's other just random types of static that I ended up not even using. The system doesn't care which one you end up using. In the next video, we're stepping away from the ending and beginning with the start menu. We're going to have our static roll in, we're going to have animatronic faces modulate in and out, and then we're going to add the first few buttons for our screen, most likely a new game and maybe a settings button. If you like all the assets you see here today, go ahead and join my Patreon creative tier, where I give you an entire Unity package with everything you've seen here put together. Before we wrap this up, I just wanted to say to all my subscribers, thank you very much, and especially to my Patreon subscribers for their commitment and their support. So long, and goodbye.